So, Steve, I'm so excited to have you here in Radio Row in New Hampshire.
Thank you for having me.
Because, look, you got to win this race, man. You're the best candidate to go up against Andy Custer. If you get the nomination, you're going to win. Trump's going to win New Hampshire. And the thing is, you're going to have a great ticket because you're going to have somebody. You got to have Chris Sununu.
Right.
He's going to win. Trump is going to win.
Right.
People are not going to split their vote, I don't think.
I agree with that. One of the things that we saw last time, and Elaine and I were talking, we were off air, is that in the midterm, we had 115,000-ish registered Republicans stay at home.
115,000.
It's a huge
number,
It
dude.
is a huge number. And then you look at, if half of those come out, we don't lose the House and we don't lose the Senate and we don't lose the Executive Council. And our race and the race in CD-1 might have been different. So we're really excited with the president top of the ticket. He'll bring the vote out. Now it's just about persuading people why me versus Ann Custer.
If you had 115,000 votes and her vote stayed the same, which I think she will, do you
I win
that seat?
I walk away. I walk away with it. Absolutely.
Right,
we lost. So we got 42% of the vote. So at a vote number, we lost by 30,000, right, total. You take half of that at 50,000, we win by 20. So
I think you kill her.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, because the Democrats in 18 got their vote out.
They did. They
right?
absolutely did.
What was her vote growth? What was her difference in vote 18 to 16?
16, which was the presidential year, the guy who ran lost just by 5 percentage points, right? So, and it was about the same vote total. So it isn't like the Democrats are pushing people out either.
So her vote total in 16 and 18 was
pretty much the same, right? Yeah. So what we're looking for, and that's what we get a lot of energy from, is that okay? We took we took our licks in 18, but now we're coming back because we know that the president at the top of the ticket is going to bring those people out, and it's going to make it's going to be a C-state change.
It's going to be huge.
It is absolutely for everybody on the ticket. Everybody.
This is the other thing. We need people like you in Congress because tell us a little bit about your military background and why you're running.
Sure. Well, absolutely. One of the things that about me is that I come from a military family. My father's retired military. My father-in-law was in the military. My wife's retired. I'm retired. My son's currently active duty. We have over 111 years of military service in our family, and it's about being around patriots. That's all I've ever known is about people giving back. And when I came into the service in the early 80s, I was a nuclear guy. I was an ICBM missile combat crew commander.
Wow.
So at the height of the Cold War, I'm 90 feet on the ground with my crew partner, manning 10 nuclear weapons in the event that the bad guy at that time, the Soviet Union, would do something. I was on land-based ICBMs, so we weren't moving. So they knew exactly where we were. But, my best friend Dave Petrello said one time, he said, we had to do our job so well that we never had to do it. And which was exactly right, the whole premise of deterrence. So I did that, and then I had this great gig. I was supposed to go to Italy and be what's known as a munition site commander, which overseas we maintain a stockpile and then we release it to the nationals. I was going to go over there, marry an Italian woman, open up a bar, never come back to the States. But that didn't happen, and so I came up here to Boston and did research and development. So I learned on the acquisition side how the Department of Defense buys weapon systems, which we can do a lot better at. And then I went over to Air Force Space Command, which, fortunately enough, is now United States Space Force.
Right.
So, my military background, brings me a lot of different avenues and experiences, which I think is going to be pretty pertinent going forward, especially the nuclear side with Iran and North Korea.
You have a tremendous amount of experience.
I do. And then I'm a small bit, so I retired, went into industry, and learned the industry side and worked for large companies, General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, and then I hung up my own shingle as a small business owner in 2005. And, it's a different perspective when you have to write your name on both sides of the check. And a lot of people don't get that. There are times that we go without, right? Because all of us who are small business owners, you invest everything you have into this business, and it isn't about the money.
And you get paid less.
Absolutely, and it's really funny. My wife says, "When are you going to give yourself a raise?" And I'm like, "The company is the raise." And
right.
And so it's been just a labor of love, and we were talking, Elaine and I were talking. We started the company so that I could have time to be with my children. Only get one shot at it. So my 3 kids, I was your Little League coach, your wrestling coach, your volleyball videographer. And now we jumped into the foray of politics, which is serving again. So I've been answering the call of public service my entire life. So this is a natural segue for me.
What do you think about like Tom Steyer the other day? He's vowed to raise the minimum wage to $22 an hour. I mean, what do you think that does?
For people who own businesses, you can't dictate to us what it is, and we understand what our business model is. And what you're going to do is you're going to find small businesses like not necessarily mine, but people in the service industry that do that are going to go out of business. You cannot carry that kind of weight in just in salary. So the minimum wage, and people get their nose out of joint. It was never supposed to be your lifelong wage, right? It was supposed to be an entry level wage where you
training wage.
Sure. I tell my kids, and of course we're all parents, and they're like, do we have to hear another story? I'm like, look, when I started, it was $2.65 an hour, right? And then I got a 10-cent raise because I was saying hello to the people coming in and out of United Supermarket in Oklahoma. So it is about learning that work ethic, getting out in the business world at the very bottom. You don't start out as a vice president.
Right.
You got to mop some floors. You got to understand so that when you're in that position many years later, you have a perspective about what everybody's doing that's working with you. And I think people want to jump to the head of the line immediately, and I think it's a disservice for what Tom Steyer is trying to do.
Yeah, I think you just hit on a great point. I mean, it's automatic that those on the conservative side or that understand why we have a minimum wage, they automatically go to sort of the financial statement of the small business owner and how it impacts. But the point you just hit is the minimum wage wasn't meant to be a lifelong wage.
Right.
It was meant to be a training wage. It's meant for teens and part-time students, folks who are in the workforce part-time. Right. I have a 16-year-old who needs her first job.
Right.
She absolutely needs her first job. She's very expensive.
Right.
But she's not going to be able to get her first job if the minimum wage is $15 an hour. Because as valuable as I think she is and as how wonderful as I think she is, no employer is going to see her as worth $15 an hour.
Right. Absolutely. And so, it is about you have to learn the process of working. I mean, that's people don't get it. We have 3 children, 27, 23, and 20. And they're still learning the process about working. Working isn't just something you just get up and go do. There's a bit about what do you bring to the table every day? What is it that your boss wants? It's about dealing with different personalities. And, when you come in the military, you come into civil service, they have a career band, and it starts on the low end. And then you work over 20, 30 years to get to the high end. You don't start at the high end. So, I believe anybody that wants to push, and you hear businesses all across the country, don't mandate this minimum wage because it's going to hurt my business. And then business goes out of business, and then you get 10 people out of work.
That makes no sense. I mean, the $22 thing is so asinine.
I got to tell you, nothing against Mr. Steyer. I've never met him. I'm sure he's a great dad and a great grandfather, but you have a perspective when you're worth $36 billion.
Right.
I think, and I don't care what you say.
Right. It's a different perspective.
It's a different perspective.
Then when you're trying to meet payroll.
Absolutely. When you're at a table on Sunday, sure.
Find somebody to cut the grass.
Absolutely. So, I just find it so, I don't know, kind of like an oxymoron that somebody's got all this wealth. A lot of these Democrats that are running have all this wealth, and they want to pander, to the people who don't. People that came up through grassroots and understanding what it is to struggle. I mean, we've all struggled. My dad was a young airman. He had to work 2 jobs. I remember him working at a Texaco gas station just so that we can have money. So, but it gives you a perspective and an appreciation of what it is. Then after 20 years you work, then you're in a place that you cannot provide for a family, and you have a better appreciation for it.
Absolutely. We always say at the Job Creators Network that we don't have a wage gap, we have a skills gap.
Absolutely.
And the population of people, there's about 88 million hourly workers in this country. The population of people who are over that age of like 24, graduate from college and in the career, who are in minimum wage jobs is about 200,000. I mean, we have the ability to identify those people and develop skills training programs. The administration has done a lot, led by Ivanka Trump,
right.
With the Pledge to American Workers. There are a lot of programs that are out there to help those people to get into some of these 7 million jobs that are unfilled,
right.
That pay $50,000-$60,000 a year to start.
Right.
So big deal. They get $15 an hour. Why not? And that's $15 an hour. Why not get a $50,000 a year career?
Absolutely.
Right.
We were last night after the rally, a bunch of us and a bunch of college kids from Dartmouth, which is the belly of the beast up there in Hanover. I had met on Saturday at a College Republican pancake breakfast, and they just happened to show up at the rally yesterday, and they sat behind us. So we went all out to dinner, and we were talking about, what happened to the thought about trades. where did the point go that a trade was a great job? That look, I own a house, and when I call an electrician or a plumber, I understand that trade is a good job because you're paying. It's about demand. But somewhere along the line, we kind of made this false assessment that the only way you can be successful is by going to a 4-year institution and getting a piece of parchment on the wall.
I agree.
We need to get back to the point, because not everybody is college material, quite frankly, and that's not a bad thing. But there are people out there that are good with their hands, and we need to make sure that we have opportunities out there for VOTEC schools to do. I know there's a friend of mine whose sons go to a school in Billerica, Mass., and they choose a line. It's electrician, plumber, and in their junior and senior year, that's what they're doing.
Well, and think about these kids that are graduating from college with degrees in, I don't know, philosophy, or, whatever it is. But it's hard to walk out of a college with, say an art degree or, something that's, and go get a job.
Right.
Unless you're going to teach. I mean, those are great teaching jobs, but
right.
There's only so many of those at the college level to teach at.
Right.
But you walk out of a trade school as a journeyman with your journeyman's card as an electrician or a plumber,
right.
And you have no debt,
right?
And you can get a job right away.
And they're hiring.
And they're hiring like
Absolutely.
crazy. The demand is crazy. And you can not only learn that skill, but some of those guys end up opening their own businesses.
No question. And it could be a 3 or 4 truck business, but you know what? It's a great job. They own it. And there's something to be said about working with your hands. A lot of us that are out there in some of the white collar stuff, we push paper, and at the end of the day, we write reports. Very, very seldom do you actually see that actual physical thing that you've done, that there's a way you can declare success. And these people, when they fix an issue, whether it's a sheetrocker, a plumber, or electrician, I think that says a lot about yourself. There was a retired Navy admiral that talked about, he was the keynote speaker at the University of Texas graduation, and he talked about, and he's a Navy SEAL, and he said the one thing he remembered through all his training was making his bed. And he said that, the first thing you do when you wake up in the military is you make your bed. Right. And at the end of the day, if you've done nothing else, you come back to a freshly made bed. You can declare success.
Is that the video of the?
Absolutely.
That is the greatest video.
McRae, I think it's Admiral McRae. I think it was.
What is it? There's a video.
It is.
John, I got to send you this video. It is so inspirational.
It is.
Make your bed.
Make your bed.
Make your bed.
As soon as you get up.
Simple lesson.
And that's what we do in the service, right? So, and everybody complains about it, but at the end of the day, you come home after doing a lot of things, and you have a crisp bed that you made.
Right.
And it's a perspective thing, and it was an amazing speech that he gave at the university. And he's a UT alum. Right. And they asked him back. Tremendous.
So I'm getting goosebumps. So at least you've accomplished something.
At least you know what? You've accomplished one thing. Yeah, that's great.
It's a good
it is.
point. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network live in Manchester, New Hampshire. This final day here, the voting started 6, 7, 8 a.m. all around the state. Steve Negron is with us. Steve, a candidate for Congress, Republican in the 2nd District. That primary not decided until September. If Negron wins that primary, he's going to beat liberal incumbent Nancy Pelosi clone, sycophant, and Custer, and he's going to go to Congress and be part of the Trump majority. I got 3 minutes.
Yes.
Trump Friday firing Alexander Vindem, had the twins walked out, firing Gordon Sondland. Today, firing 70 Obama holdovers. Has Trump finally gotten the message?
Well, it's one of those things, and let me just speak to Lieutenant Colonel Vindman. We work at the pleasure of the president, any military, and these are postings. These are special duty assignments that are out there. They're not forever. I have no idea where he was in his cycle, if he was, slated to be rotated out of there anyway. But, as a guy who wore the uniform and had come from a family of military people, I think what Lieutenant Colonel Vindman did was something certainly I wouldn't have gone down that path. Our president is our commander-in-chief. We have a chain of command to do some things. And if the chain of command doesn't support you, then we have other options. But, you can't go out there and be a wild card and be a cowboy. And so I think if you have an organization, it doesn't matter if it's the President of the United States or it's a 5-person small business, you have to make sure that the people that are around you are supporting you, right? That you cannot, just like you said last night about that snake joke, you can bring a snake into your house, but you better understand that it's still a snake. I'm not calling Colonel Vindman a snake. I'm just saying that you have
no,
to.
No, but it's gonna eventually bite you.
It's going to bite you.
That's
right.
what snakes.
That's
snakes
what they do.
They bite you.
They bite you. Absolutely. So I think what the president is doing is finally getting to that point now when he's looking at his second term. He's now got a great team around him, and I always say this all the time. Look at what he's done in the 3.5 years. Despite the fact that his first 2 years had a Congress that didn't work with him, despite the fact that he had a mainstream media that always fought him, despite the fact that now this Congress is trying to impeach him, but you know what? He's made of Kevlar. I mean, this stuff is just bouncing off of him, and he's doing the right thing. So just imagine what we can accomplish as a country when you get people in Congress to help him, and I'm one of them.
Well, that's why, Steve Negron, we need you there. We need you to win this primary. You're the candidate of great substance.
Thank you, sir.
Let me just tell you that. Now, I had a chance to talk to one of your opponents, Lynn Blankenbecker, fine young lady, big Trump supporter, but the difference in the level of substance between yourself and Blankenbecker, quite frankly, Steve, was stunning. And she's a nice lady, and I wish her the best. But we need people running for Congress and in Congress that actually have a resume, that understand what is going on, that grasp the issues, and you have demonstrated that over and over. You're going to be a great candidate.
Thank you.
You're going to win this race, and then you're going to go on and beat Ann Custer. You have what it takes to take it right to her. Now, people want more info, Steve. Where do they go? So
they should go to the website. We're about to go live with that. It's Negron, the number 4 Congress.com. There you'll have a bunch of information about my issues, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity. Get on board, help us out. One of the things I want to just say quickly is that, today when I went to vote early this morning in the First in the Nation primary, we have a current congresswoman that has endorsed Pete Buttigieg. And if you look at his webpage, his prime issues is to do away with the Electoral College. And if you do that, it renders this state, the state that she represents, irrelevant. So I don't know how you go to Washington as a representative of a state and throw us under the bus. Right. Our First in the Nation primary goes away. It brings tremendous resources to the state. So, at the end of the day, you work for the people who put you there. And I just think Congresswoman Custer, in aligning herself with her and with Nancy Pelosi, I think it's just a disservice to this great state of New Hampshire.
Well, she couldn't care less, basically. She's just afraid of AOC and that whole ilk there. And she's a total Nancy Pelosi, white suits.
No.
Sycophant. But look, you're going to Congress. You're the candidate of great substance, Steve Negron. We thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, John. I appreciate the time.
Back.